Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Over Tea, where we make English simple and enjoyable. I'm Anna.
And I'm Dan. Hello to all our listeners joining us from around the world.
So, Dan, I have to ask you something. When was the last time you felt really, truly embarrassed?
Oh, Anna, do we have to start with that? My life is basically one long series of embarrassing moments. But if I have to pick one, it was probably last week at the bakery.
What happened? Did you forget how to order a croissant?
Worse, I was trying to be fancy and use a bit of French I learned years ago. I wanted to say, I am full, but I accidentally used a word that meant I am pregnant. The baker just stared at me and my face turned as red as a tomato.
Oh, no, that is a classic mistake. But, Dan, did you die?
I wanted to, but no, I'm still here. I got my bread and I survived.
Exactly. And that is what we are talking about today. The fear of making mistakes when you are learning a language. It is probably the biggest obstacle that stops people from becoming fluent.
It's true. People are terrified of messing up.
To mess up. That is a great phrasal verb to start with. To mess up means to make a mistake or to do something badly. When we speak a new language, we are so afraid to mess up our grammar or our pronunciation.
And why is that, Anna? Why does a small grammar mistake feel like a giant disaster?
I think it's because of perfectionism. A perfectionist is someone who feels like they must be 100% correct all the time. If they are not perfect, they feel like they have failed.
I used to be a total perfectionist with my guitar playing. If I hit one wrong note, I would stop the whole song and start over from the beginning. It was exhausting.
It is exhausting. And in English learning, perfectionism is like a cage. It keeps you silent. You wait until you are sure of the sentence, but by the time you are sure, the conversation has moved on.
Yes, you're standing there, your mind goes blank, and you just say nothing.
My mind goes blank. This is a phrase our listeners use all the time. It means you suddenly forget everything you know. You know the words, but they are hidden behind a wall of fear.
It's a physical feeling too. Your heart starts racing, your hands might get a bit sweaty, and you feel like everyone is judging you.
But here's the secret, Dan. Most of the time, people are not judging you. They are actually rooting for you.
To root for someone. That means to want someone to succeed, like when you cheer for your favorite sports team.
Right. When you speak English to a native speaker, they are usually just happy that you are trying to communicate with them. They aren't counting your mistakes. They are looking for the meaning of your words.
I think we need to change how we look at mistakes. Instead of seeing them as failures, we should see them as milestones.
I love that. In our last episode, we said a milestone is a sign of progress. If you make a mistake, it means you are actually speaking. You are practicing. You are in the game.
Exactly. You can't learn to ride a bike without falling off a few times, and you can't learn to speak English without saying a few weird sentences.
I remember a student of mine who was so afraid of making a mistake that she would write every single sentence down in a notebook before she dared to say it out loud.
That sounds very slow.
It was. She was so focused on accuracy that she forgot about fluency.
Accuracy versus fluency. That's a big debate in the English world. Accuracy is being correct. Fluency is being able to speak smoothly and easily.
For learners, fluency should be the priority. You need to focus on communication rather than perfection. If the other person understands what you want, you have succeeded.
So if I say, I go to store yesterday, it's not accurate because the grammar is wrong, but it is fluent enough because you know exactly what I mean.
Precisely. The ED at the end of walked or the S at the end of he speaks is important, but it's not the end of the world if you forget it.
But Anna, what about that feeling of cringing?
Cringe. C-R-I-N-G-E. That is when you feel embarrassed or uncomfortable because of something you did or said, like when you remember your pregnant mistake in France, Dan.
Oh, I'm cringing right now just thinking about it.
We all do it, but we have to learn to laugh at ourselves. If you can laugh when you make a mistake, the fear loses its power.
That's a great tip. Humor is a great way to handle the pressure.
But what if you're in a serious situation, like a job interview or a presentation? You can't just laugh and say, "Oops, I'm pregnant."
Fair point, Dan. In those situations, the fear is much higher, but the solution is often the same. Focus on the message. We have a lot more to say about how to handle those high-pressure moments in the next part. I'm looking forward to it.
I need all the help I can get.
Don't we all? Listeners, think about this. What was the most cringe mistake you ever made in English? Did you survive it? We'll talk about how to move past that feeling in a moment. We are back. And before the break, we were talking about how scary it can be to speak English in high-pressure situations, like at work or during an exam. Dan, you mentioned that even when you are prepared, you still feel those butterflies in your stomach.
Oh, definitely. Butterflies in your stomach. That is such a common idiom. It describes that fluttery, nervous feeling you get in your belly when you are anxious or excited. It feels like tiny insects are flying around inside you.
It's a very uncomfortable feeling. But did you know that scientifically, fear and excitement feel exactly the same in your body?
Wait, really? My brain definitely thinks they are different.
It's true. Your heart beats fast, your breathing gets shallow, and your hands might shake. Your body is just preparing for action. The only difference is the label your brain puts on it. If you tell yourself, "I am terrified," you will feel frozen. But if you tell yourself, "I'm excited," you can use that energy to speak better.
So I should just lie to myself?
It's not lying, it's reframing.
To reframe, like putting a new frame around an old picture.
Exactly. You're looking at the same situation, but in a different way. Instead of saying, "I'm nervous about this English presentation," you say, "I'm excited to share my ideas." It sounds like a small change, but it really helps to calm your nerves.
To calm your nerves, that means to become less stressed or more relaxed. I think I need a special tool for that, Anna. When I'm nervous, my brain is like a runaway train. I can't stop the negative thoughts.
Well, there is a very famous technique called the 5-4-3-2-1 rule.
I've heard of this. It's for when you feel overwhelmed, right?
Yes, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel like you have too much emotion or too much to do, you use this rule to come back to the present moment. You stop thinking about the what ifs and the future mistakes.
How does it work?
You stop and identify 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. By the time you reach number 1, your brain has stopped focusing on the fear of making a mistake and is now focused on the real world.
That's brilliant. It's like a reset button for your brain. Another thing that helps me is having an anchor thought.
Oh, I like that word. An anchor is the heavy metal object that keeps a ship from moving in the ocean. So what is an anchor thought?
It's a specific positive memory or a happy image that you keep in your mind. When you start to feel the speaking anxiety coming, you focus on your anchor. For me, it's a memory of sitting on a beach with a cold drink. It reminds me that life is bigger than one English conversation.
That is so helpful. Because when we're afraid of mistakes, we have tunnel vision. We only see the potential disaster. An anchor thought helps you see the big picture.
The big picture, the entire situation, not just the small details. The big picture is that you are an intelligent person learning a difficult skill. One wrong verb tense doesn't change that.
Exactly. Another practical tip I want to share is about the words we choose. A lot of learners try to use big, impressive words to sound more professional, but when they get nervous, they forget those big words and then they panic.
I do that all the time. I try to say extinguish and I forget it, so I just stop talking.
But you could just say put out.
Or stop the fire.
Right. This is what we call the synonym strategy. If you can't remember the perfect, fancy word, just use a simple one that you know well. Communication is the goal. If you use simple words correctly, you will feel much more confident than if you try to use complex words and fail.
That makes so much sense. I think we often try to perform English instead of just using it.
That's a great way to put it, Dan. Don't perform, just communicate. And remember what we said earlier. Assume everyone is rooting for you.
I really like that mindset. If I believe the person I'm talking to wants me to succeed, I feel much more comfortable. I'm not talking to a judge, I'm talking to a friend.
And if you're in a situation where someone is judging you, like a mean person or a very strict boss, then they're probably not the kind of person whose opinion you should worry about anyway.
That's a very boss attitude, Anna. I love it.
Well, you have to be your own best friend. If you make a mistake, don't beat yourself up.
To beat yourself up. That doesn't mean hitting yourself, does it?
No. It means to be very self-critical. It's when you say things to yourself like, I'm so stupid, or I'll never learn English.
We have to stop that inner naysayer, as we called them in the last episode.
Definitely. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would show to a friend who is learning your language. If a friend made a mistake in your native language, would you laugh at them?
Never. I would be impressed that they were even trying.
Exactly. So give yourself that same respect.
Okay, I'm feeling much more motivated now. But what about the blank mind? You know, when you've reframed, you've used the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule, but you still just forget the answer to a question.
There's a great cheat code for that. If someone asks you a question and you need a moment to think, you can buy yourself some time.
How do you do that without looking like a statue?
You can say, what are my goals for the next 5 years? That's a very interesting question.
While you're saying those words, your brain is working hard in the background to find the actual answer.
Exactly. It's a very natural way to keep the conversation going while your brain loads the information. As I mentioned, a cheat code for when your mind goes blank. Dan, do you ever use filler phrases when you're stuck?
All the time. In fact, I think I use them too much. I say things like, to be honest, or actually, or even just a long
Honestly, Dan, using and is exactly what native speakers do. It's much more natural than just falling completely silent. But we have some better ones for our listeners. You can say, let me think about that for a second, or how can I put this?
How can I put this? That's a great one. It tells the listener that you have the idea in your head, but you are just looking for the right words to put that idea into a sentence.
Exactly. It shows you are in control of the conversation, even if you are struggling with a specific word. But Dan, let's talk about the moment after the mistake. You said something wrong, you realized it, and now you feel that cringe we talked about. What do you do?
Well, in the past, I would just stop talking and look at my shoes. But now, I try to own it.
To own it. I love that expression. It means to take responsibility for something with confidence. If you make a mistake, don't try to hide it or act like it didn't happen. Just acknowledge it.
Right. If I say he go instead of he goes, and I notice it, I can just quickly say, sorry, he goes, and then just move on.
To move on, that is the most important part. Don't let one mistake ruin the rest of your conversation. If you spend 5 minutes apologizing for a small grammar error, you are making the situation much more awkward for the other person.
That's true. It's like a game of table tennis. If you miss one ball, you don't stop the whole game to cry about it. You just pick up the ball and start the next point.
What a perfect analogy, Dan. Language is a back and forth game. It's not a solo performance or a final exam.
You know, one of the files we were looking at earlier mentioned a beautiful Italian concept called bella figura.
Yes, the beautiful figure. It's the idea of presenting your best, most organized, and most intelligent self to the world. But the file also mentioned the brutta figura, the ugly figure.
And that's what we're afraid of, right? We're afraid that if we make a mistake, people will see our ugly figure. They will think we are slow or not smart.
But the truth is, you cannot reach the bella figura of fluency without going through the brutta figura of making mistakes. Bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's doing it even though you are afraid.
That is so powerful. Speaking English with an accent or with mistakes is actually a sign of authenticity. It shows the world who you really are, someone who is brave enough to learn a new way to communicate.
I couldn't agree more. So let's wrap things up by looking at all the amazing vocabulary we've covered today.
I'll start. We began with to mess up, which simply means to make a mistake.
Then we talked about perfectionism, that feeling that you must be 100% correct, which often leads to your mind going blank.
We learned that most people are actually rooting for you, and we should see mistakes as milestones on our journey.
We discussed the difference between accuracy, being correct, and fluency, speaking smoothly, and why fluency is the priority for most learners.
Don't forget to cringe, that uncomfortable feeling of embarrassment that we all need to learn to laugh at.
We talked about butterflies in your stomach and how to reframe that feeling as excitement instead of fear.
We shared the 5-4-3-2-1 rule to help when you feel overwhelmed, and the idea of an anchor thought to keep you calm.
We looked at the big picture and the synonym strategy, using simple words instead of getting stuck on big ones.
We promised not to beat ourselves up over mistakes and learned how to buy ourselves some time with filler phrases.
And finally, we learned to own it, correct ourselves, and move on so we can keep the conversation flowing.
Wow, that is a lot of tools for our listeners' English toolbox.
It really is. And now we want to hear from you. We have a little homework for you today. In the comments, tell us about a time you were afraid to speak English. What happened? And more importantly, which of today's tips are you going to use next time?
Maybe you'll try the 5-4-3-2-1 rule, or maybe you'll try the synonym strategy. Let us know. We read every single comment and we love hearing your stories.
If you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, please subscribe to English Over Tea and give us a like.
Share this with a friend who's a bit of a perfectionist. It might be exactly what they need to hear to finally start speaking.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Keep practicing, keep making those beautiful mistakes, and remember, your voice matters, even if your grammar isn't perfect.
We'll see you in the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye. And Anna, I think I'm going to go back to that bakery and tell them I'm full correctly this time.
Good luck, Dan. Just make sure you don't accidentally say your croissant.